Chris Payne's thread he started about how different night fishing was kind of got me to thinking, and we were going back and forth in his thread about it. And I kind of talked about a couple things in it that I found useful that helped me catch more fish at night. So I figured I'd do a video. I'm a lot better at talking than I am writing. I had a public California school system education, so you guys understand. But anyway, I got a little dry erase board with a drawing of a pond on it, and we'll kind of go through that. But first, there's a couple things I want to talk about. Night fishing. A lot of people don't take benefit of fishing at night. They don't really get into it. I don't know why, but it's perfect. Number one, you miss all the crowds. Us as swim bait fishing, we're kind of loners somewhat. You know what I mean? We don't like everyone to see what we're doing, and when we see people that ask, "Did we catch anything?" we usually lie. We didn't catch anything. It's just how we are. So fishing at night, you don't really have to run into people. You don't have to worry about people finding your spots and seeing you land fish and stuff like that. That's one of the benefits. And then, like where I live in Colorado, but it gets hot as hell out here in the summertime. It's like 115. So I'd rather go out at night. You know what I mean? When it's a lot cooler. So that's another benefit. And then something else too, like I feel those bigger fish are eaten, when it's dark, especially in the summertime when the weather's a little bit cooler. They got cover of darkness. They can creep right up in the shallows and munch on bluegill or rats that are running around, the bank after the sun goes down, or mice or frogs, or those bluegill and those bait fish will swim up real shallow at night and just sit there. And they'll creep right in and just munch on them all night long. So that's one of the benefits. And then also, during the day, you get follows during the day, and the fish turns away for whatever reason. Your bait threw off a negative cue. The fish saw you. Saw your boat. If you're fishing from a boat, your trolling motor might have saw your line. Just something, he didn't like. So he turned around. Well, at night, you don't really have that. It's just a better percentage that you're going to hook up with him because there's less negative things for him to see. You know what I mean? And that's great. Any little negative flaw you have in your presentation, it'll hide it. All right, another thing, baits. We'll talk about baits. All right, when it comes to picking baits for me at night, everyone says, use black, this, that, and other. To me, that don't make a difference. The color don't make a difference. It's more about water placement and profile and the noise that the bait puts off to me. You know what I mean? You throw a white slammer at night, it's gonna get bit. You know what I mean? I don't think it's gonna get more than a black slammer or whatever. I just feel that colors don't matter at night. It's more about the profile. So, in my opinion, use any colors. Now, you can use whatever you want, try whatever you want. Some of it'll work, some of it don't. You just try trial and error and see what works for you. But baits, I try to pick them off a sound. I'll go through the baits I have, and I'll kind of clack them together. Like the slammer will make a different sound than another wood bait, like the PB rat. The PB rat has that, I guess it's an automobile clear coat, and it's just loud. And the joints moving together kind of squeak a little bit different from a slammer. A slammer is a deeper kind of sound, and the clack's different. Then you got 316 baits that's like a completely different sound, when they clack together. So, pay attention to that. You also got the G2, the Black Dog G2. It has rattles in it. The Black Dog G2 shell cracker. That's a pretty good bait. Me personally, I like the wake baits. You don't have to worry about getting snagged. I just like top water. I ain't gonna lie. I just prefer to throw top water. I think you can throw Huddlestons, you can throw Rising Suns. I just prefer to throw hard top water baits. Me personally. So my favorite baits would be like the Baby Wake, the Wake Junior, the PB Rat, MS Slammer. Those are the baits I use the most. I've had most luck with the Wake Junior recently, but it just depends on what the fish want that night, and each night's different. But the noise that those baits put off, the water they put off, the water displacement they put off. Don't be afraid to put some Pro-Cure on them. I always do that, and I think that's why I catch a lot of catfish on hard baits too. But that always helps. So that's probably it with baits. You know, kind of use what you want to use and go from there. It don't really matter to me as long as it puts off a V-wake and it makes some noise and it displaces water, and I'll try it. You know, I told you my favorite's the Wake Junior, the Slammer, the PB Rat. I mean, those are killer. Then your equipment. You need to know your equipment inside and out, like your rod, your reel, your line. You need to know what you're using. You don't want to be fumbling around with the drag. And I use a Cardiff, and you know the bolts, those little hand-tight bolts, they always come loose. So you need to know what that feels like. You need to know what your reel's doing, what your rod's doing, because you don't want to screw with it at night. You know what I mean? You know, so just my whole thing with your equipment is make sure you know what you're using. So you have confidence in it, and you know when something's wrong with it, or you know when it's running perfectly and you have no issues. You'll never take your reel apart out in the field at night, nothing like that. But just know your equipment. You know, we're all fishermen, so just make sure you know your equipment good, so you're not fooling around with that. That's the last thing you want to have to deal with. Another thing, one of the most important things I think, and where I see a lot, I've went out night fishing with guys before, and you know, I feel like their percentages on catching fish, they kind of drop them because of their light discipline. Light discipline. Any of you guys who are in the military, you know, like I was in the military, there's a couple other guys on the site that were in the military, you know, you get taught about being tactical and about light discipline, you know, and less is always better. You know, me personally, I don't own a headlamp. I won't bring a headlamp. I have no light whatsoever. I do not use any light for anything. I never shine a light. You can use the moon. You know, people say, well, the moon's not always out. There is always some kind of light. You know, it might not be bright, but there's some kind of light. Whether it's a street light way off in the distance, you know, you can pick your bait up and look, you know, to put your line through that the eyelet hole, you know, tie your bait. And if you can't tie a knot, if you can't tie a San Diego jam knot in the dark, if you can't tie a Palomar, an improved clinch, whatever you tie in the dark, then you just need to give it up. You know, I can tie a knot by feeling it. You guys can too. You know how to check them. You know, so there's just no reason. Now, once you're getting ready to go, you know, like when I leave the house, I'm loading everything up in my truck, you know, getting ready to go out. You need to start there, you know, like I was telling Chris, turn down the console lights in your truck. You know what I mean? Just so you're not looking at bright lights. Don't be looking at your cell phone in the dark, you know, when you're driving or right when you pull up, because it's going to kill your night vision. You want your eyes to start adjusting. You want your pupils to start adjusting for the nighttime. You know what I mean? Then once you get there, you're unloading all your gear and there's street lights around. Never look up at them. You know, keep your hat on. Just how you block the sunlight out with the bill of your hat. Do the same thing with the street lights at night. You know, or whatever light, a spotlight that's there on a dock or whatever. Block that light out. Never look straight into it, because it's gonna take you a couple seconds for your eyes to readjust to that. You know what I mean? So just keep that in mind. You know, your night vision is key. It's one of the most important things. You know, is your night vision. So don't use a cell phone. I suggest not using the lights, and just pay attention to what you're doing. You know, as far as looking into light and stuff like that.